What's up everybody, I'm here to give a little review for Freedom Wars for the PS Vita. It's also available for the PlayStation TV. Now I'm just gonna run over the pros and cons of the game. I think the game is really good. Great actually. I'll rate it at 8.5 out of 10, but I will go into more detail of the things I liked and disliked. So yeah, let's get started. I guess we'll start off with the story. The story is pretty long. Like, the developer has mentioned that the story will last you 25 hours, but I guess depending on your skill level, um, this could last you slightly less or slightly longer or much longer. It is a Monster Hunter type game. I'm not actually familiar with these type of games, so if I make some errors, then please don't call me out on it. But it's a really interesting game, and the story sort of kind of correlates very well with this concept of going into battle and you know battling these monsters and other sinners and whatnot. But the story starts off. I won't go into detail or spoilers, but basically, your character has a 1 million year sentence, and for reasons that I will not say, but you've basically the whole game's about you trying to trim down this sentence in order to become free. Now, playing through the story is not enough to trim down your sentence. You need to play a lot of this game in order to trim down that sentence by doing, of course, the missions, or what they call it, operations. Um, but the story itself is actually quite interesting. It's actually pretty good and is kind of well told. The only problem is that the gameplay is so fun and addicting, is that sometimes it gets in the way. Like, sometimes I wish that the story will get out of the way and just let me play. But the story is actually quite interesting. There's lots of characters. There's a very strong but kind of complicated or convoluted plot. But for the most part it stays interesting enough. But like I said, it gets in the way. It has you do a little fetch quests sometimes, or dialogue sequences last for too long. And this is, if you're a purist, this is in Japanese. Like, the dialogue's in Japanese, so you'll be happy about that. But for those who like English dialogue like myself, it's kind of a bit of a drag. But anyway, that's not a con, I don't mind that. But yeah, the story itself is really interesting and is quite lengthy. Yeah, it lasts me more than 20 hours or so. And yeah, for the most part, it was really well put together. And the whole concept of you battling these monsters, either taking them down um, simply by defeating them, or by rescuing these abductees. So, like, these monsters are called abductors, and you need to, sometimes they have scientists or people held captive, and you need to rescue them. And if you rescue them, you get special perks, which I'll mention later. But of course, when you encounter these missions, you get to reduce your sentence. You gather resources, and and yeah, you get those scientists to help you out a little bit. But yeah, with that said, the battles in the game is very great. Like, the battles, there is a time limit there, and determining how good you are or how bad you are, they could last very short, or they could last you the whole time. But for the most part, it's fairly easy. I want to say easy. It's kind of balanced. It's kind of well balanced. It's not too hard or not too easy. But definitely later on in the game gets really hard, and it really puts your skill levels to the test. And I'll mention some cons about the battling in a second. But battling the abductors themselves are very satisfying. Like, seeing them, you have this weapon called a thorn, and you can use that thorn to drag them down, and try to slice and dice on them, or just shoot them off. And yeah, just watching them drag down, or getting an abductee, rescuing an abductee, or just defeating an abductor is so satisfying and so epic, and the music works very well with it. That it can get quite challenging sometimes, and even overwhelming, because sometimes you're facing them multiple abductors at a time, or an abductor and other sinners, or other miniature bad guys. And it can get overwhelming and even extremely overwhelming, and that's when it gets really hard. And but for the most part, it stays very satisfying, and you feel satisfied when you complete the mission. Um, I guess more going into detail with the story and the concept is, yeah, you have a 1 million year sentence, and so you have basically no rights at the beginning, but when you encounter those missions or operations, yeah, like I said, you get to reduce your sentence, you get resources, you use those resources to upgrade weapons or to get augmentations later in the game. You also get entitlement points, and you can use those entitlement points to get entitlements. So you get the right to being able to run for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. You get the right to customize your character a little bit more. Um, there is customization here, and you can customize whenever you want once you get the rights to customize it. And you try to get all these little things to sort of enhance the experience for you and make it a little bit more accessible to you. But yeah, the entitlement points make a big difference over here, and the resources you could donate your resources so you can reduce your sentence a little bit more and also get entitlement points. So there's a lot to it, so it's gonna be hard for me to explain everything, but um, but yeah, that's basically the gist of it. And yeah, you're basically in prison, and you're surrounded by other sinners who've done other, I want to say bad things. They're not really bad things, but who've been to jail for certain reasons. Um, and yeah, you're also surrounded with securities and whatever, but that's not important. And you also have a companion called an accessory, who you can also customize and give their own loadout, their own weapon setup, and you can also give them specific orders like to cover you in battle or to heal you in battle. And the AI is not so great, but I'll go into that in more detail. We're talking about the pros here. Um, yeah, like I mentioned, the weapon upgrades and resources. You get resources, and you use those resources to upgrade your weapons, or to and you just make your weapons a little bit more stronger by upgrading them. And you have a lot of weapon options, from light weapons from machine guns and whatnot, and heavy weapons like rocket launchers and heavy swords or light swords. And you have a good variety here, but some are better than most, because if you're facing the abductors, you're better off with heavy weapons, because they take up much more damage. And some of these weapons come with elemental damage, so if if you have a weapon with elemental damage, with either ice, fire, they can have combinations of all of them. But yeah, it'll be a little bit more easier for you to take down the abductors. And the abductors also have parts, so you can like take part off of their arm or their head or something like that, and that will also be accessible to your resources and being able to upgrade or whatever. Mention entitlement points. So with that said, there's good replay value, because once you finish the story, there's still a little bit of the story afterwards. I won't spoil anything. But you also have special operations, and these special operations are very long and epic, and they're pretty damn challenging. And if you ever encounter a mission that's way too challenging for you and you absolutely can't handle it, I recommend you play co-op, because co-op is actually makes the missions a little bit more easier, especially if you're playing with players who know what they're doing and are pretty experienced. But from my experience, playing co-op has been very enjoyable. I haven't encountered any situations where I was with players where I kind of raged on them because they didn't, revive me, or because I thought they played shitty or whatever. For the most part, the people I played with, are pretty good. And yeah, playing co-op really enhances the experience, because yeah, if you go through a mission that's really hard, and it's really hard for you to play it because the AI is kind of bad, then you could hop into co-op, and you can have real players help you out, and I guess they don't mind helping you out, because even though they may be replaying a mission, and they may not get as much reduction to their sentence, they always get a benefit. They either, get resources, or they, reduce their sentence by a little bit. But most importantly is them getting resources and being upgrade their weapons and get augmentations. Um, but yeah, there's always a benefit when you're playing an operation. Either, whatever. And yeah, the co-op in the game is really well done. But yeah, the problems of co-op could be, if you don't have good internet connection, there will be extreme lag. I have okay internet connection, and for the most part, all the games I played were pretty good. Like, there was not so much lag, but there was one moment where I played where the lag was just absolutely horrible, but we were still able to play, and it kind of made the game easier to play. But that just, I guess, kind of weird. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, that goes without the pros. It's very entertaining to play. But now for the cons. To me, I find the controls very clunky. Now, I play this on the PS Vita. And yeah, the PS Vita is this pretty... and I'm playing the original Vita, not the Slim. But it's pretty fat and bulky. But I kind of got used to it. But now playing Freedom Wars kind of made me realize how bulky this thing is. And how playing a game like this is not made for the circumstances, because there is a lot of shooting. You get to shoot weapons and all that, so yeah, you're gonna have to reach for L1 and then shoot with R1, and it kind of makes my hands uncomfortable. And not only that, you also have items to choose from getting health, getting ammo or whatever, and you can switch between these. But sometimes I need to stop in the middle of battle just for a second and switch between my items so I can use them, and that leaves me exposed for a moment, and that's not good, because the enemies could attack me really easily. And that's the second con, is that it's hard to avoid enemy attacks once you're under radar. Like, you know how in most games like Mario, like when when you get hit, Mario flashes, and for that brief moment, he's kind of invincible. He can't get hit twice or whatever. But in Freedom Wars, like, if you're getting hit, you're just getting bombarded. There's nothing you can do about it, because there's really nothing you can do about it. Like, even if you try to evade, they're still gonna be on you. Especially the enemy sinners, which are basically characters like you, not the big abductors. They're basically normal characters, normal sized characters. And yeah, they can gun you, and like, it's really hard to avoid their attacks. And with that said, the enemy sinners, they're the worst to play against. And there are some specific missions where you're not fighting abductors, you're just fighting the sinners. And yeah, those battles are probably the most annoying. And but I guess you're not so bad as long as you coordinate your team well, and your accessory is also coordinated well. But if there's a moment when there's too many of them, it could get really annoying and really challenging, not in a fun way. There's a challenging in a fun and satisfying way, and there's a kind of challenging where it just feels like you're just getting beat up. Um, but yeah, like, even with the abductors, like, they run at you and stomp, and like, there's moments where the abductor stomping on the floor, and my character is down, and she's slowly getting up, and then the abductor's going on another attack, and once I get up, I get swiped and get hit again. And that's not fair. Like, it barely gives me a chance to recollect myself, and move on, and try to, like, help myself avoid attacks and whatnot. But yeah, that's basically all the cons I have. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten too deep into the multiplayer. I only played through one match, and it was very laggy for me. But from what I played, it seemed like a fairly straightforward team deathmatch. I think there's other game modes in there where you could capture and hold, I guess. But from what I played, it felt pretty standard. It's basically the same thing where now you're fighting for the city you represent. So if you're Los Angeles, you're representing that city, and you're fighting against another city, or Patapon or whatever, Patacon, and yeah, you reduce something, I guess a sentence for that own little thing. But it was kind of weird, and I didn't get too into it. But I guess with that said, the replay value is pretty good, because yeah, you have optional missions from the story. You can replay story missions to get resources, or any mission at all to get resources, and there's special operations, and the co-op enhances it, makes it really much more fun to play. And yeah, there's multiplayer in there for those who care about multiplayer. But yeah, that's basically it. Overall, Freedom Wars is really good. I highly recommend it. It's probably the last AAA game we will ever get on the PlayStation Vita. It's kind of sad, but I guess I'm happy that it ends this way. You know, it's a good game to end with, and I guess I don't mind it ending it with Freedom Wars. It's a very meaty experience, lots of replay value, long hours of gameplay, very entertaining, very satisfying, and even if you're done with the story, done with everything, you still have lots of years to trim out on your sentence, and it will be good for something to keep you very busy, either on the train, on the go, at home, relaxing, whatever. So yeah, Freedom Wars, an 8.5 out of 10.